So I'm Julia Lynn, and I am a systems change geek. I have been doing this work now with philanthropy for 20 years. In particular, when I say systems change geek, talking about how do we steadily shift how the systems are driving inequities, are harming people, and not just to try to add to them, but actually disrupt and dismantle what's broken to make room for what's good. I get to work with philanthropy directly, which is a pleasure. I also get to work on the ground with movement builders and those who are driving change from within the systems. And then there are times where I'm working across big global strategies with many partners, and I get to see the depth of thinking that happens at all the different levels. For me, the Foundation Review is about that depth of thinking. It's a resource. It's a place I go to get a better sense of who is pushing the field and who is engaging in philanthropy in ways that maybe they're not quite fully fleshed out and they need to be experimented with more. And because I'm working with people who believe in experimentation and complexity and adaptation, there's room to test out some of these new ideas. I also really like when we kind of have those moments where something has moved from being an early idea into it has some evidence, some support behind it. And you can see that happen because the articles aren't thought pieces anymore. They're case studies. They're concrete. They're stories across many different things. So when I've submitted, it's a little of both. I like being in the thought leadership space, and my Lost Causal article that is part of this issue is, I think, in the thought leadership space. But it's also really exciting to share when we learn something substantial across multiple philanthropic initiatives about how change happens. So I appreciated how hard it is to change the evaluation field, the sense of protection of what's right, the definition of rigor, the definition of what the right way to approach an evaluation is. I'm here for the article on causal pathways is one of those challenges because it's asking the question of, instead of being either or, either you do an experimental or quasi-experimental design to prove your intervention, or you just describe it. There's nothing in between. It's asking evaluation to change that. But I actually don't think that the pickup and interest in it was because of that notion of changing the evaluation practice. I feel like the first round, we got so much outreach when it first came out, and Julia Kaufman and I were fielding calls from philanthropic partners who were saying, we need this. We need this information. We are making decisions based on causal ideas all the time. We are stating things. We are creating theories of change. And this is an aha moment of, oh, we're not even testing them. We're just describing the things we saw, but not why those things happened. So I actually think the gap here is that evaluation forgot to change, even as people moved forward. And we're now doing such complex work in philanthropy, and we are making so many assumptions, and we're holding on to them so hard, even when there's kind of vague feedback in the environment telling us we might be wrong. And so I think the other piece is there's this hunger to better understand how systems really change. And there's a lot of systems change strategies that struggle to make sense of the outcomes they're collecting. They have these indicators, they seem really good, but they actually can't find their own work in that. And so they don't have a robust story either to tell their funders if they're on the ground doing the work, or as a funder to tell their leadership and board, because causality isn't clear. So I think there's something really interesting here about, we need to redefine rigor. The notion that rigor comes from a very problematic place means we need a new way to think about what quality looks like in this work. And we also need to redefine who is driving the questions and who is starting the conversation and who is an expert in the room, and have the methods and the methodologists be the tool that those on the ground are able to use to ask and answer the questions that they care about.